Peace, love, and light. Peace, love, and light, family. Oh my goodness. How are you doing? Let's fix the hair. Make it like, okay, cool. This one. Okay. How are we doing? How are we doing? I am going to put a couple of links in the chat. So don't mind me. This was a spur of the moment. Live here. I wanted to talk. I'm like, let's talk. And to be quite honest, it has been a minute since we actually just like talked about like really just going into the science of iridology, which is like the core of what I do and what I bring into the world. And so I felt like I needed to really just like hone in on that because not only that it is my first love in holistic, it is actually a life saving tool that most of us still don't know about. All right. And even when we do know about it, we still don't really understand the resonance, like the importance of having your iridology done at least twice a year or once a year for maintenance, right? That is so, so important. So, for those of you who are just tuning in, come on in here. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and comment on this live. It's so important. As you see, family, I am showing up more here on these platforms. And to be quite honest, it's not it's I won't say it's easy. Then I also won't say it's hard. Between working with clients, then also first of all, motherhood is first, right? So first motherhood, working with clients, fitness, maintaining my own personal life. It is a constant juggling act. And so I said, I honestly miss making videos. I honestly miss making content, editing, even though it's quite annoying at times, but I do miss it. I like it. And I've been called, my spirit's been called to teach on a mass level. So I'm like, you know what? My spirit's like, we got to show up, constantly. This message has to be redundant because it's still not, penetrating in a way where I'm like, I can talk to someone that, I've spoken to or have had as a client. I'm like, yes, I understand. I'm coming to see you twice a year minimum or once a year. That is important. Now, in the past, I had a lot of clients over the years, and most people only get one iridology and think, okay, one and done. I know what I have to do. I know what's my challenge. I don't need to get it again. Well, that couldn't be any more true. And let me tell you why. Your iris is always changing. Okay. It's always changing. So when you have one iridology, and then you come back 6 or 8 months later, your eyes had already changed within that 6 to 8 months. Whether it changed in a specific way, where in one area of your iris, it may show, okay, we looked at your liver or your colon a few months ago, and it had a specific marking or resonance, whether it was a specific pattern, right? And iridology, simply put, is looking into the iris, which is the color part of the eye, and examining the iris for specific patterns, colors, markings in the specific zone of the iris to that organ region for weaknesses well before the chronic challenge can appear. So if you had your iridology, let's say 6 months ago, and you come back and you're like, okay, I want to check my foundations. What do you know? After 6 months, we start to see healing lines in that area, which is really the only science, the only like tool that can actually tell if you're regenerating in real time. Okay. I've had many clients that come, I mean, like clockwork every 6 months. And we see the changes in the iris. Yeah, it'll show up as like white lines where it was once black and dark. It'll show up as white lines in that area, which gives me decoding it that okay, this person is healing. This person constitution is changing from degenerative to subacute, which is the second stage of tissue health. So we're talking about iridology. We're talking about how important it is because this is my first love, and we don't get a chance to just like really have that conversation and talk about the science of iridology, how important it is for you to have it for you and your children. Okay, I may share an iris. I'm not sure. I should, right? Should I share an iris? And just like really expand on it and show you irises in real time of and I've had, let me tell you, let me go back to my screen. I've seen so many irises, right, where I've decoded whether it was uh the only reason why I name specific disease names only so that you can understand what we're dealing with, but not okay, this is something you have, but more so, okay, this is something that you can, internally relate to, right? And so I start asking questions, and that's what iridology is about. You start asking questions about what challenges you have, what symptoms that you may have, right? Like if there's a specific marking in, let's say, your spleen area, okay? How's your iron levels? Do you chew ice? See, what I love about this science is that you don't tell me anything. And I say this all the time. You don't tell me a thing. I ask you and tell you what's happening with your health. I can give you so many reviews of how many of my clients say the same thing. I didn't tell her anything. Okay. All I did was send her my iris photos, and she went over my iris photos live on Zoom, might I add, live on Zoom, and she literally spelled out everything that was happening to me, things that only me and my God knew, right? And so that is what this science is about. I think I am going to share an iris. The only thing is, I want to make sure that I protect my client's integrity. So I have to share an iris that is without a name attached. Okay, so give me 1 second. Let me make sure that one is cool. I want to see another one without any type of name, just so that we can get this thing rolling. Give me 1 second. Oh, perfect. All right. All right. So let's get right into it. Now, I did a video years ago. Where we at? Okay. I have to share my entire screen. I did a video years ago on, wait, no, right here. Sarcoidosis. And you have to scroll back, okay? For those of you who are just tuning in, we're talking about iridology. This is Friday Night Health Talk. I want to make sure y'all like this live, okay? Make sure you're subscribed and make sure you share this with your friends and family, because let me tell you, this is not something that is often talked about when it comes to holistic and specifically the science of iridology, right? When you actually know how to target your health without guessing, it becomes something more powerful when you actually start the detoxification protocol and it's actually working. So let me give you an example. I was scrolling on Threads. That's another social media platform, like a branch off of Instagram. And this lady had posted on Threads, and she says that she was crying because she's dealing with this autoimmune disease that she cannot like understand and really like pinpoint what is happening with her. And so she was scrolling on social media, and people were telling her that elderberry and ginger and turmeric and all of these, she was just taking like random herbs, right? And it actually made it worse. And I could have, like, I wanted to jump through the screen and say, and take her by the hand and say, let me show you exactly what you need. Right. And so when you are dealing with an autoimmune disease, or what I call auto intoxication, you cannot just go and randomly, put random herbs together and think it's going to work for you. You actually have to have a specific method, a specific remedy, which is why working with an herbalist is important, which is why working with a holistic practitioner, a naturopath, is important, because elderberries and autoimmune, auto intoxication doesn't mix. Okay. Because if your immune defense lymphatic is already like heightened, that is not going to change anything for the better. It may not, it may just work at a surface level, or in her case, it actually made it worse. Right. And so this is why it's important, family. Right. If you have somewhat of an idea of what's happening, but you're like, you know what, I'm going to put this turmeric and this ginger and this honey. Yeah, those are basic concoctions. You may need something more, like, I'm talking deeper, like roots. And most of us don't even know the roots that we need. Right. And so this is why I have my naturopathic work, my iridology work, all of that intertwined with my herbalism work. So that once you have your iridology, my store is packed with all of the root and bitters that you need to reverse and restore your body. Okay, does that make sense? No more random herbs, no more becoming Instagram, herbalists, and saying, I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take that. If you have a good idea of what you're challenged with, then that's cool. But most of us, we don't really know what's happening. We're guessing. No more guessing. And this is why iridology is so important, because you this is proof that you have the map. You are the map. And we spend our whole lives going from different doctors. This is what I was saying in the last video that I posted, where I talked about that, to really help you to understand, like, do we have doctors or do we have specialists? So there's a difference, with a doctor comes from the word seer, which means to teach. And we have specialists, right? What is a specialist? A gynecologist, a cardiologist, a nephrologist, a neurologist, a gastroenterologist, all of these ologists that specialize in one area. Now, what I talked about in the last video, where I titled it Things That Your Gynecologist Won't Tell You, right? If you're dealing with fibroids, ovarian cysts, menopause, your gynecologist is not going to say, well, you know what, let me go talk to the hepatologist, which is the liver doctor. Let me go talk to the gastroenterologist. Let's go sit at a round table and see how we're going to help Tanya, because she's dealing with these huge, severe fibroids. And maybe before we remove them, maybe it's the colon. Let's look at what's happening in the colon. Let's look at her liver enzymes. Let's check to see if there's fatty liver present. Let's check to see if there's gallstones present. These conversations are not happening. And so now you're only staying localized to one area. And the only method is what? Removing the growths instead of finding out the root cause of why the growths are in there the first place. Can I get an ashe? Can I get an amen? Right? That's the key. So if you're familiar with sarcoidosis, let's get back to this here. We're not going to be long. We got about 10 minutes. Sarcoidosis, I first learned about this disease, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen really quickly, right? First, make sure y'all comment, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, okay? All right, let me share the screen. Okay. Yeah, I got to do this. All right. So I first learned about sarcoidosis back in 2017. I went to a routine eye exam with my mother, and they told her that, it was at the eye doctor. I believe it was at the eye doctor that they told her that she needed to get a follow-up with another doctor. And then that's when they diagnosed her with sarcoidosis. And so I never heard of it before. I was in school at the time, So I was like kind of just like oblivious, like what is that? And then I started doing a little bit of research on it. And then after she transitioned in 2021, I started hearing that name so much, right? Then I found out that Bernie Mac was diagnosed with this challenge. There's another celebrity that's diagnosed with this challenge. And it was just kept coming up on my radar. Then I had a client, right, who didn't even tell me that she was diagnosed with sarcoidosis. But these are the signs in the iris that I was seeing in a patient with sarcoidosis. And so when I'm showing her liver, right, and I'm showing her lungs, and sarcoidosis, to characterize it, it is a multi-organ disease where you grow like these granulomas, these like growths on various organs, whether it's the lungs, whether it's the skin. You get rashes on the skin, your eyes. You start having eye issues. It involves the lungs, the liver, the eyes, and the lymphatic system, right? And so and then when you look it up, you see a picture of a Black woman. So it's specifically a challenge in the melanated community, but specifically with melanated women. And so this client came to me. This was about 4 years ago, and this is what I examined, and I started seeing the liver here as an inflamed liver. Then you start seeing the lung areas in this area, but this is very important when we're looking at sarcoidosis. You see this ring around the iris. Now, we are used to seeing this ring. I want to be clear because this is so important for you to understand. This woman is about in her early 40s. I want to say 41, right? This ring was not seen in irises no younger than 70. Okay. So we were seeing these rings in like a late 60s, 70s. And I got to quote one of my dear sisters, who's a medical doctor. She said that the diseases that we were trained to treat people for, we would train to treat them in their 60s and 70s. But we're now seeing the diseases that we were trained to treat older people in younger people. And so I'm starting to see this ring in younger people. Now, what is this ring? Now, when you look it up in iridology terminology, it's called a cholesterol ring. And even some ophthalmologists, when they're examining you, they can tell if you have high cholesterol, diabetes, different high blood pressure, different challenges like that. That's how far range their scope goes with that. But let me go a little deeper with you so that you can begin to piece all of this together. And it's going to be simply put, and it's not going to be some long drawn out anatomy lesson where you're going to go to sleep on me. Okay. Can I get a check? Right. All right, cool. For those of you watching a recording, right, stay tuned. All right. Make sure you get a little notebook out too, because this is important information that's going to save your life. All right. So when you're looking at this ring, right, I want you to think beyond cholesterol, because every time you hear the word cholesterol, you think it's bad. It's not bad. I want to repeat that. It is not a bad thing. Matter of fact, every organ, cell, gland in your body needs cholesterol. All right. And so when we look at this ring, I don't call it cholesterol ring. I have my own terminology. I call it the hepatic ring. Now, hepatic is related to the liver. And why do I call it the hepatic ring? Because where is cholesterol produced? In your liver. All right. So your liver produces the cholesterol that in turn, now we're dealing with what? High amounts of cholesterol in the body. And that is actually the basis behind sarcoidosis. In other words, sarcoidosis is an auto intoxication of the cells. The cells in your body are literally bathing and drowning and smothered in its own toxic waste. So imagine your body, and it's been hijacked with parasites, with fungi, with candida, with all of these type of microbes just drowning the body out. All of your eliminatory pathways are blocked. Think of a highway, right? Let's say you live in the busiest area of the world. You live in New York, you live in California. And think of every highway is super blocked. Cars are backed up for miles. There is no way in, there is no way out. That is your body. Cars backed up for miles. No in, no out. So now you have no way to get these toxins out. So what happens? They begin to quadruple. And then the good cells that are trying so hard to fight for you, they become outnumbered in certain areas of your body. And so now this is what we call dis-ease, the outnumbering of your good army, your good bacteria, right? Does that make sense? Am I drawing it home for you? So this is summarizing what sarcoidosis is. It is the auto intoxication of the cells, and it's backing up into what? The main eliminatory pathways, your lungs, your liver, your kidneys, your spleen. These are all the areas that it's being backed up in. And so, what I would do for a sarcoidosis patient, right? The first thing I would do, of course, is the flush your liver deworm 28-day detox. Why? Because that is the basis behind sarcoidosis, the liver, right? That's where it's starting in the liver and the colon. So you want to start there when it comes to what is called sarcoidosis. And please keep in mind that this is for educational purposes only. This is not to treat, diagnose, or mitigate any type of disease. All right. I am not an MD. And so this is information that you can begin to start for yourself at home. Or again, I posted the link in the comments for you to schedule your iridology so you can know without a doubt what's happening in your body. All right. No more guessing. No more trying to figure this out on your own. Because let me tell you, you waste so much time doing that. When I'm gonna kind of like, really compare it to a fitness journey. When I was in the gym last year, and I just going into the gym and I was just like doing whatever. Like I'm just, oh, maybe I'll hit the treadmill here. Then after that, I'll hit and I'll do this and I'll do that. And just kind of like floating, right? And I said, you know what? I need a plan. Like I need to walk in the gym and I need to know exactly what I'm doing. I need to do sets. I need to focus on certain days. If I'm doing arms, if I'm doing legs, doing abs, and I need like workouts that's actually going to do something for my body, right? I'm the type of person, I want an ROI. I want a return on investment. I don't want to just be doing anything just to be doing it, right? Because guess what? 6 months down the line, and you like, oh my God, I don't see any results. It's not you. It's you don't have a good strategy. Your strategy is off. And so iridology is like the one of the top strategies that you can actually utilize when it comes to solving your health problem. Because it tells you, your eyes tell you exactly what you need to do to restore your body and in the order you need to do it without the guessing. Oh, I'm going to take this herb, I'm going to take that. I might do this, I might do that. Right? Then we have programs around the iridology. So you're not alone when you actually start doing your detoxification protocol. Okay. This is serious stuff, y'all. All right. So this is what before I began to get into liver focusing. You see, I put opaque ring around iris, meaning chronic congested lymphatic system. Also, it's really the chronic congested fatty liver. All right. So as you go along, as I went along in my work, I began to change my thinking and my ideas around health and understand, hold on a second. It's not just the lymphatic, it's also the liver as well. It's also the colon, right? And then also lymphatic is involved too, because that's one of the main eliminatory pathways in the body. So one of the men that wrote the original book on iridology, he's coined the father of American iridology. One of the things he said was that he hasn't never seen an iris that hasn't had a colon issue. That this part around the pupil, which is the colon zone, He's never seen an iris where it hasn't been a colon issue. And I have to add to that. Not only have I never seen an iris without a colon issue, I have never seen an iris without a liver issue. Like every iris I've seen, there's some underlying liver challenge there, unbeknownst to the client. So important. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. I wanted to share that with you, and I want to keep this live short and sweet so that you can rewatch it, because that's important. Please make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and save this video. Come back to it as many times as you want to. This is just a Friday night health talk. Let's talk about iridology, one of my first loves. It would always be my first love. Okay, absolutely love it. Matter of fact, I'm due for my iridology workup next month. I check my iridology every 6 months like clockwork. I check my daughter's iridology every 6 months like clockwork. Anyone like that, I know, I'm like, listen, let's get your iridology done. All right. And so I did pin a comment, book your advanced iridology analysis. Yes, that is my system that I created. And it's more than just an iridology consultation. It's comprehensive. So you get a blueprint, right? I also look at your lab work. We decode that so we know exactly what we're working with. And again, just to be clear, sometimes your labs are not going to catch up to what your iris had already revealed. All right. So thank you so much for those of you who watched to the end. Thank you so much for those of you who tuned in. And I will see you on the next video. Peace, love, and light.